Hi guys, welcome to Active Dogs. My name is Val Darts and I'm a dog trainer in Ventura, California. Today's video is going to be for those of you who are possibly new dog owners or someone who just really cares about their animal to stay safe, stay healthy, and stay alive. This video might potentially save your dog's life. I'm going to give you 25 points, which some of them you're like, okay, duh, I knew that, but some of those points are the little things that I have picked up from people over the years working with dogs, talking to dog owners about their pets, about their experiences. I came up with 25 different things that might save your dog's life. Some of them is going to actually touch a training that you need to have for your dog to potentially save your dog's life. Some of them are going to be all over the place. So we are going to go ahead and start with the obvious ones, okay? Actually, it might be a little more than 25. Get ready, the video is going to be a little bit long, but I recommend that you watch this video, maybe grab a pen and write things down for yourself, okay? So the obvious things would be, well, take your dog to the vet. You know, being on all the different dog groups on the Facebook and whatever, I keep seeing things people ask, but some of those things I already know might be dangerous, right? And people are like, oh, so what do you think? Okay, if you see something's wrong with your dog, don't wait a week to take a dog to the vet. Wait maybe a day or two. But in certain things, like, it cannot wait, okay? Like, do not hesitate. It's obvious for you. For some people, it's obviously not. Number 2, clean up. Like, do not, especially if you have a puppy, do not let the stuff, socks, whatever lay around that the puppy can potentially eat or choke on, okay? Number 3, how many of you people are putting your dog on the back of your truck and go riding around? My question to you, are you going to put your child on the back of the truck and go ride around? If not, then why are you doing it to your dog? As a matter of fact, child might be safer. Dogs are dogs. They can get spooked. They can fly out on a turn. Okay, some people do at least leash the dog up. However, I have experienced it many times, a dog actually getting out of a harness. You would think, how the hell the dog gets out of the harness? Well, I don't know. Sometimes they just do. So I actually, that point is so obvious. However, also back of the truck and opening the windows up, down all the way with your dog hanging out of the window while you're driving. I actually personally seen how 2 golden retrievers jumped out of the car as they saw the water in the middle of the PCH, like on the light, you know, and thankfully there was not many cars and it was early in the morning, so the lady could get out and get her dog safely. However, that could have been, you know, dramatic. You know, also, I know somebody whose dog jumped out, you know, on the park. Dogs, they're not people. They get excited. They don't understand. They can put themselves in danger, okay? So the dog jumped out of the car. Again, the window open, get hit by a car, and that's it, you know? So that one is very obvious, but for some reason, I keep seeing all these trucks, especially on the highway, you know, and think like, what if you get into an accident and the dog is on the back of the truck? That's a dead dog, you know, when otherwise the dog could have been fine, you know? All right, I'm not gonna rumble here about it because this one actually kind of pisses me off because to me that is just not very responsible. That is not responsible. I cannot say that enough. Okay, next one. Well, obvious, again, maybe not so obvious. Be careful with leaving the toys out, the bones out when you leave the house. Make sure when you do leave something, it is something that your dog cannot tear up and chew and choke on, okay? Next one is teeth and skin. Brushing the dog's teeth, taking care of the dentals, making sure you check the dog, constantly on possible, bumps on the skin, check the mouth, because the sooner you really catch something, the more there is a chance that your dog will leave, okay? So those are the obvious little things, right? Take your dog to the vet. Like, don't put the dog in danger where there's no need to be. Next one, we're going to jump right into the training. As a dog trainer, I know some people are like, whatever, as long as my dog is nice, like, it's all good, like, I don't need it to be perfect. I actually, as a trainer, don't need my dog to be perfect, okay? He has his little things, some of them annoying, but there's few things that your dog need to know, need to learn, and need to obey 100% of the time. And those things are, so we're gonna go, I have it as a number 4, but we're gonna go, there is 4 commands that I, as a dog trainer, highly recommend for you to teach your dog. So, come. Number 1 is a come. That's a point 4 over here in my book. All right, so again, if your dog is running towards the road, if your dog decides to chase after coyote, come. And the dog needs to turn around right away and charge towards you. That's a number 1. Okay, there can be many situations where that can save your dog's life. Number 2, stay. Again, if the dog is charging towards the road, the stay command will literally have the dog stop in its tracks and do not move, period. Next one, leave it. All right, that can go to the snakes on a trail, that can go to the food that might be potentially dangerous for the dog, that can go for anything, that can go for another dog, that can go for a coyote. The dog needs to know, leave it, turn around and go away from that, okay? Next one is very, very important, and most of the people do not think of that, but socializing your dog heavily from the start. Why that is a lifesaver? Well, because if you do not socialize your dog, that dog might become reactive and potentially aggressive and might hurt another person, and then that is a euthanized dog, okay? Many people get a puppy and the vaccination, I don't know why it's dragging for 15 weeks from the moment they get the puppy, and they get the puppy at 8 weeks, right? Usually. Okay, so here is the deal. When puppy is born, it has the immune system from the mom first, like 3-4 weeks, right? Then it gets the first round of shots. Then you get the puppy and you have to go and take the puppy for the second round of shots. Well, so I want you to know one thing. There is a critical socialization time for any puppy, and it closes at 12 to 15 weeks. Now, if the puppy wasn't socialized, didn't have litter mates, and you wait that time, it's going to be extremely hard to socialize that dog. That dog might develop severe behavior issues. Okay, so yeah, dog might catch the parvo, but there's plenty of places, the puppy classes, you have people coming over to your house, you go introduce to people outside. The dog needs to come to any situations possible, preferably before it turns 15 weeks. If you already missed that part and I would get a trainer. I would just still socialize your dog like crazy. Literally bring your dog everywhere with them. Have your dog get treats from people. Have your dog meet other dogs. Again, that, maybe one bite is not going to have your dog euthanized, but there is a possibility, especially if the dog, injures somebody. So that one is very important. Next section over here is going to go number 8, and it's going to be the foods, chemicals, things within your home that can actually kill your dog. Okay, so let's talk about the home. You bring in a dog into the house. What are you using for your cleaners? Make sure in the bathroom, the dog doesn't get into any chlorine. Windows, the Windex. Make sure dog doesn't simply get into any chemicals, right? The same goes for the car. Number 9. What do you use to clean your car? When you bring your dog into the car, they always like rub their nose on the windows, and then you have all this like mess on your windows. So what you do, you get a Windex and you clean it. Well, guess what? That can actually kill your dog. Okay, so it's those little things that you need to think about, and most people won't think about. And I'm a little bit of a chicken mama as it comes from my little baby, so that's why I'm sharing those tips with you. Now, there's plenty of videos, there's plenty of information on the number 10, the foods, what you feed your dog. Actually, there's so many toxic foods, where for a big dog it takes the big amount of that toxic food to actually kill the dog. But for the small dogs, a very little amount might be enough. So you definitely want to find an information on toxic foods and make sure you do not feed your dog those foods. Number 11. Let's talk about the actual dog food that we buy in a store. I would do extensive research on the dog food, on the dog nutrition, because a lot of times, and a lot of vets even already admit that a lot of popular dog foods actually do cause early death, cancers, and so on and so forth in dogs. So that is one thing that some people really pay attention. Some people will just go and buy somewhat expensive food, but it's very, very important to do your research to make sure there is no recalls and so on and so forth. Next one, number 12. So if you guys are a smoker, if you smoke cigarettes especially, weed, if you burn a lot of incense in the house, the secondhand smoke a lot of times cause in pets like carcinoma, like mouse carcinoma. If your pet gets a mouse carcinoma, it's a graveyard. Honestly, like I have had a pet who had that. One of my clients had a dog who had that. And again, that's not necessarily you're a smoker, right? They still can get that. But that is just something that increases the possibility of the pet to get the mouse guard cancer. Okay? Next one, 13, is tying your dog up. Whether you tie your dog up on the back of your truck, you tie your dog up by the store when you go somewhere, you tie your dog maybe in the yard or whatever. You have to understand, when you're tying your dog up, especially on the collar, there is not a high possibility, but there is a possibility that the dog might do something and choke itself. The same goes for having like when you have the prong collar and leave it on your dog, sometimes those prong collars can get stuck like in the like a heater on the floor of your house. So that is something to be really careful with. Like when you leave your child, like you make sure he's not gonna tangle on curtains, right, or on the blind strings or whatever. The same comes with dogs. You know, they're pets. The dogs really remain at about a 4-year-old child type of thing. All right, so the next section, we're gonna go to number 14, which is probably already 18, but I always mess up my numbers, not a biggie. It is just in general going out and about with your dog. And this one is very important. And honestly, most of those things people do not think about, okay? I live in a small town. I live pretty close to a forest, so a lot of people hike with their dogs, and certain things people just do not consider. So number 14 is going to be your equipment that you use, which is your collar, your harness, especially if you have a young dog, a puppy. You know, if you send in your dog out with a dog walker, make sure the equipment is highly secured and the dog cannot get out of it. I have a client of mine told me a very terrible story how they had a dog walker come in, and it was in a busy street in Santa Monica, and it was a puppy, and basically the puppy just slipped out of the collar and got killed by a car right away. And make sure the equipment is functional. And you know, dogs sometimes get spooked, whatever. It's just to be better safe than sorry. Okay, next one, number 15. Do you go and maybe if you live by the river, or if you live by the ocean, or maybe you like to travel with your dog, when you do so, when sometimes people will fetch, I do that a lot, the ball into the water. The dog loves to swim. He goes, he jumps there, swims. Now, when you do that, you need to keep a couple things in mind. If it's a river, well, how fast is that river moving? Is there a waterfall? You know, make sure your dog is going to be able to come back. The same goes with ocean swimming. If the waves are 15 feet, and even you thinking maybe I wouldn't go swim in it, well, you shouldn't let your dog swim in it. Okay? Next one. Snakes. If you go hiking with your dog, or even if you live in a smaller town where, you know, like, there are snakes, you have to be very careful. That's where we go calm. That's where we go leave it. You know, because again, dogs get curious, and a lot of dogs, most dogs have a prey drive. So whenever they see a lizard, snake, they're gonna go after it, okay? So again, there is plenty of places where they do snake training, or if, you know, you think maybe you don't need that, whatever, you don't believe in it, be very careful. There is a reason why if you go hiking, there is always a sign, dogs must be on a leash. Yes, that is to protect the wildlife, but that is also to protect the dog from the wildlife. Next one, bees. Okay, the bees can sting anybody, anytime, anywhere, okay? If it's a summertime, there are bees out. Some dogs are highly allergic to bees, just like people, and they can just go ahead and die. While you cannot prevent the dog from a bee bite, just maybe be careful where you take your dog. Is the dog gonna run in the flowers? However, there is like places where it's like a green grass, dog park, there will still be bees in the grass sometimes. So if you suspect your dog got bit by a bee, I would give it a Benadryl right away, and I would take it to emergency just to make sure your dog is fine, okay? Next one, overheating. I know a lot of firefighters, I know some rangers, and all of them keep telling me the stories, especially the search and rescue, you know, how many calls during the summer they get that some lady or someone went hiking with the dog got overheated, she didn't have enough water. Guys, use the common sense, okay? Dogs do wear a fur coat, they do get hot, they do need water to cool off. So when you go hiking with your dog, make sure you keep your dog cool. Water might not be good enough. It's a little dirty, but I'm gonna show you. It's a cooling vest that I use for my dog, okay? What you do with it is you wet it. You can put it in a freezer, and literally freeze it so it's really cold. And you put it on your dog. You bring a bunch of water. Once this thing gets dry, you just water it again. That will keep your dog cool. I use that all the time. My dog gets overheated super easily, so I have to be extra careful with that. Next one, coyotes. Well, again, if you hike on a trail and if you have a very well-behaved dog, like I'll be honest, like I let my dog off leash a lot because he is just a Velcro. He's right there. He's very trained. So you gotta be careful though. If there is coyotes a lot of times will lure the dogs with the scent. A female coyote will try to lure the dog to follow her. Again, sometimes they'll just work on a prey drive. Anyhow, what they do is they separate the dog from the owner and they basically kill the dog. So be careful with that too. Again, go back to the training, teach, come, stay, leave it. Make sure those commands are down. And if your dog, one of those dogs that the recall is not really good, I honestly, as a dog trainer, when people tell me, I'm sorry, you can always teach the dog the perfect recall. And if you have to use e-collar, well, guess what? Some of you might chew me up. I'm an actually very positive dog trainer, but the e-collar can actually save your dog's life in the situations like that. Okay? Next. Hiking cliffs and steep trails. When you do hike the trails that are pretty steep, please make sure to not play the fetch with your dog. Please keep your dog on a leash. I actually was hiking the other day and it was basically the trail was going right on the side of the mountain. So it was like a slope down. And basically if your dog falls off that slope, of course the dog watch where they go. My dog, for instance, he watches me a lot, so he'll walk and then he'll turn around and not look where he goes, rather than he's gonna look at me. So that is something to be thoughtful of. And maybe in places where the dog can fall, on the Instagram, I keep seeing those videos of somebody's dog standing alone on a cliff. That make me want to have a heart attack. The dog can fall. Dog can get spooked, distracted, and fall. Okay? Next one. Number 22. This one is also a story that I've heard from a client, and I actually somewhat experienced that with my dog. My dog did not get injured. However, I am going to say this, and honestly, this is something that no one ever thinks about, okay? So when you play with a dog fetch, for instance, in a dog park, of course, you cannot prevent everything. But do think of that. And do think when you play fetch for the other dogs too. When the dog is chasing that ball, he doesn't see anything. He's just going. So sometimes the dog can run your dog over. A dog can get run over by a dog that's playing fetch. You need to look into things like that, because one of my clients, they boarded a dog and the dog got injured. Basically, another dog jumped on him and injured something in the spinal cord. The dog became completely paralyzed, so they had to put it down. And that is extremely sad. And of course, you cannot prevent everything. But when you do keep things in mind, you can prevent things, at least to the certain degree, okay? So that one is definitely something you guys didn't expect. Now, the next one is the chubby dog situation. Okay, I run into a lot of dogs that are a little bit thick, you know, and sometimes not a little bit thick. Sometimes they're double the size. I have recently saw a picture on Instagram, which the picture was funny and cute, but really not cute. So like a pregnant girl was like with her belly, right? And the dog was sitting next to her dressed and he had his belly like falling out. And although that looks funny and you know how a lot of times we'll be like, oh, that cat is so fat, that's so cute. But you have to understand, when your dog is overweight, extremely obese, for instance, most likely, that is actually killing your dog, and your dog will live 4 or 5 less than it would have otherwise. So if you love your dog, stop overfeeding your dog. Start exercising your dog. That will have your dog be with you much longer than it would be if it stayed fat. Okay, and that's a little harsh of me to say your dog is fat, whatever. But I have run into dogs like this, and I work with dogs like this, and when the dog is literally barely 7 and it's a double the weight it should be, it's barely walking. It's very sad. Okay, next one, completely out of maybe topic, but it's something that I have kind of had to learn about when I first got my dog because I had some issues, but I am sure there are some people here that might use this information. Okay, pancreas. Some dogs will literally develop a pancreas disease. A lot of dogs are actually, like German Shepherds, very predisposed to that stuff. So if your dog is super skinny, you can tell he's not absorbing any food, all of a sudden it starts puking. When you take that dog to the vet, they'll do like a blood panel, but what panel you really want them to do is, I think it's PLI, pancreas leptic something. Basically it checks the pancreas function. You need to check the vitamin B12 absorption and pancreas function. So if your dog starts throwing up, if your dog is very skinny, or like if your dog is like, looks like it's a little hunched. I actually ran into a lady in a dog park about a year ago, and she had a puppy. What was that? It was a Frenchie, I think. But he looked so weird, like you could see all his bones. He was so skinny. And I told her about the pancreas thing. The next thing she did, she like joined the group with like dog pancreas disease group, whatever. She started giving the dog B12. She started giving dog the pancreatic enzymes. And I just saw this dog like a few months ago. I didn't recognize it. And she came up to me and she was like, hey, thank you. But this is something that a lot of dog owners don't realize, and when the dog starts throwing up and whatever, the vet will put the dog on antibiotics, blah blah blah. It will be a really long time before they figure this out, so you might want to be proactive and make sure that part works fine. Okay, again, I'm not a vet, but it is something that I've learned because I had a little bit of a scare when I first got my dog with that. Number 25, surprise surprise, get a dog insurance, like a dog health insurance. I would first cancel my insurance before I cancel my dog's insurance. It's $60 a month, worth it completely. Because guess what? Again, when something goes wrong with your dog, and something will go wrong with the dog, yeah, ear infection, $250, not a biggie. But I bet throughout your dog's life, there will be things, you know, snake bite, whatever. And, you know, sometimes dogs get cancer, and sometimes they get cancer they can actually be healed from. But a lot of people choose put their dogs down because they cannot afford it. And I get it, because it's expensive. It's expensive. It might cost you $10,000, $15,000 So I truly, truly, truly believe everyone should have dog insurance, because if something goes wrong with your dog, like, I'm seeing all these people asking questions on the Facebook, like, oh, hey, my dog has been puking for a week. What do you think it is? I think it's time to go to the vet like a week ago. So, guys, this is about it. It's a long video. If you made it to so far, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if I forget something, if you have had an experience, please leave the comment down below of maybe other things that can save your dog's life. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great week. Bye bye.